So step 5 of the business buying process is due diligence. Now, due diligence is a comprehensive investigation of a business. And as part of that, first and foremost, we're looking at risk. You see, a lot of business buyers, they will look at the upside, but the professional business buyers, they are looking at the downside. What's the risks here? What could go wrong? And due diligence is our opportunity to be able to do that and really get under the bonnet of this business. We also look for verification of information. So for example, the value of the assets. The financial statements may say that a business has £100,000 worth of assets, but is it really £100,000? We need to verify that those assets are actually worth £100,000. And quite often you will find that they're not worth what it says on the financial statements. They could be worth £50,000 or £75,000. So we need to verify the information that we've been presented. We also want to take a more strategic evaluation. So this goes back to the initial business profile review, and we're looking at the business in the wider context. Where does this business really sit in the marketplace? Why are customers using this business over all of its competitors? What's actually going on in the marketplace? What's changing, and how is this going to impact the business? We want to take a much deeper dive into those dynamics. We're using all this information because ultimately we want to be making informed decisions. This is about informed decision making. Like, we want to know what we're getting ourselves into. And so having all this information to hand and reporting and documenting it in the right way is absolutely key to not just making sure you're buying the right business, but also protecting yourself if you are, and once you are, the new owner. As part of due diligence, we also plan for the takeover. Like, what does that actually look like? What is the handover? Who has to give what and when? When does it happen? There's a lot of thinking and planning that goes into this, and we do this as part of due diligence so that we can feed the information we're getting from due diligence into our handover plans, making them a lot more practical and also much more easier to implement. This is like a mechanic checking over a car. That's all we're doing in due diligence. We're getting under the bonnet, we're checking the tyres, we're looking underneath to make sure that what we're buying is what we think we're buying. So with all that being what due diligence is, let's quickly explore what due diligence is not. So due diligence is not a guarantee of success. It's really not. Now, there's nothing guaranteed about this. We're just doing our homework, we're doing our research, and we're really getting clarity around the situation and around the business. It's also not a one-size-fits-all process. Due diligence on one business is going to look very different to due diligence on another business. So we have to keep that in mind. It's a highly flexible and fluid process. This is not some quick review like initial business screening. Due diligence often takes a couple of months, sometimes even longer. So we have to bear that in mind. And this is about crossing the T's and dotting the I's. It's also not a replacement for professional advice. You may decide that you want to bring in certain professionals to support you in the due diligence process. For example, you may want to have an accountant look at the numbers and then advise you based on what they see and what they find. It's also not a one-time event. Due diligence is not just something that happens pre-acquisition. This is something that is ongoing, because sometimes when buying a business, we don't fully know what we've bought until we've bought it. There's only so much that you can see from this side of the table. And quite often you have to get your feet on the other side of the table to be able to get a more accurate view, or to be able to refine some of the things that you found to figure out what's really going on. So it doesn't stop when you close the deal. But I will say that due diligence is not just focused on the negatives. Due diligence is an amazing opportunity to identify the strengths in a business and all those hidden pockets of untapped value and opportunities that the business may have. And these again will form part of your handover plan. Now, there's a few different areas of due diligence. We have financial due diligence, so we're looking at the numbers. We have operational due diligence, so how is the business being run? What's the A to Z of the business? How do they go from getting a lead or a customer inquiry into the business all the way through to delivering to that customer and getting the money for their product or service? We look at legal due diligence. So where does the business stand legally? What about from a team perspective? We have HR due diligence. Does everyone have employment contracts? You'll be amazed at how many people don't. What about technology? Are there any technical risks there? Are they subscribed to any software programs that they're not using? Very, very common. What about strategic due diligence? So what's happening in the broader marketplace? I keep coming back to this because it's so important. What changes are happening out there that could impact the business? And are there changes happening that's causing the seller to wanting to get out now? Like, you want to understand this as soon as possible. You can also have other areas of due diligence depending on the type of business that you're buying. You can have property related due diligence. So does the business have a leased property or does it own its own property? Either of those examples will have slightly different areas of due diligence that you want to look into. You've also got sector specific due diligence. So I previously mentioned we've bought businesses in the franchise sector, and there's various nooks and crannies of franchising that won't be in other sectors, but that we want to look at as part of our franchising due diligence. So there's lots to consider here. The key is that you look at everything and you make informed decisions based on the data that you get back.